Krishna, everyone. Welcome to those who come in. Thank you all so much for being here. Today, I will be speaking to all of you. I seek your blessings and your prayers to be able to speak for my own purification and according to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, so that we can all be inspired by devotees' prayers and the prayers of Ritra Sura, and we can all come closer together to pure devotional service. And I guess I normally introduce other people. I'll briefly introduce myself. My name is Champakalata Sakai Devi Dasi, and I I found Krishna consciousness in 2010 and then met my spiritual master in 2011 and have been living in temples since 2012, serving full time, and I've been here at Bhakti Center since 2017 and currently serve on the leadership team and as community care director. I've done lots of different services at Bhakti Center, everything from managing the reception to being a PRA to teaching, so very grateful to be here. I'll start with some prayers to our teachers, so if you know them, you can join me. Om Agyantimirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunzritam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhisham Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swarupa Padamam Dadishwapadamam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Radhakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahajanabhagatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savritam Purijana Satitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Bhagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Hitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusde Devi Paramani Haripriye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Vivasindhuvecha Patitanam Bhavebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachare Shisarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravananda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we're talking about my favorite topic ever. I have two favorite topics, humility and prayer. Those are my two favorite topics. So if you ever want to talk to me about that, you can. But yeah, prayer is so important, and prayer is actually the way that we can be purified of material life and come closer to Krishna. There's a beautiful quote from the Srimad Bhagavatam 7.9.12 of Sri Prahlad speaking to Lord Nrsimhadev. And he says, "Therefore, although I was born in a demoniac family, I may without a doubt offer prayers to the Lord with full endeavor, as far as my intelligence allows. Anyone who has been forced by ignorance to enter the material world may be purified of material life if he offers prayers to the Lord and hears the Lord's glories." So devotees, they sometimes feel that they do their japa, which, by the way, is also prayer. It is meant to be prayer, specifically the prayer to Radha and Krishna, please engage me in your service. They do their deity worship, they read and hear Srimad Bhagavatam, but then how during their daily life and while going about their work, etc., raising their kids, being with their family, how do they remain Krishna conscious? Isn't it? We hear this question all the time. Sometimes devotee feels that their daily life or work is actually an impediment to their Krishna consciousness, which makes them feel like they want to stop doing it. But prayer is actually the remedy to this conundrum. Every moment of our life gives us an opportunity to offer our work and our very lives to Krishna, and to pray to him at every moment, to act according to what would please him. So when we can pray constantly as we go throughout our day, pausing to pray before responding to life situations, we can develop a very intimate relationship with Krishna that becomes very, very real. And with Krishna's mercy, we can surmount all obstacles in our life. One time, my dear friend Haripriya Radha from Champakalata told me, she said, I just tell Guru Maharaj everything in her prayer. Like as she goes, as she goes about her day, she just is constantly telling Guru Maharaj, then this happened, and praying. It's a relationship. That's how we develop a relationship. And having an active prayer life throughout the day, beginning from the moment we wake up. We're actually meant to, when we first wake up, so many people, where's my phone? It's in my bag, but so many people, they wake up and what's the first thing that they do? What has WhatsApp said overnight? But we're actually meant to bow down when we first wake up and pray to our spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, to Krishna, to offer our obeisances to them, and to say, please let me serve you with this day. So it's meant to start from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed at night. We can pray before we close our eyes. And when we do this, that also transforms our japa into a more prayerful experience. Because we're developing that mood of prayer throughout the day, and then when we go to sit down in our japa, we can go deeper in our japa. One of the most powerful experiences I've actually ever had in my Krishna consciousness was when I went to a Christian healing center in Brazil. And part of the process was actually to sit in a meditation room for 4 hours straight at a time, twice a day. And bead bags were not allowed. Not that they had anything against bead bags, but that was meant to be silent prayer. And I was forced into very deep prayer to Krishna for that entire time, which broke open my closed heart and then helped me to go deeper when I did sit down to chant my japa. And I prayed for myself, and I also actually spent a lot more time praying for others than I spent praying for myself, which opens your heart and develops compassion. But it is essential to follow in the footsteps of the acharyas and great devotees on how to pray, and to also read their prayers to develop the correct mood of prayer. What do we want to pray for? So often we mistake prayer to mean asking benedictions from God, isn't it? We can come to Radhamudar, please give me this, please give me that, please give me this, please help me with this. But Srimad Bhagavatam actually reveals that before we ask God to give us what we seek, we would do well to examine other components of prayer that are exemplified by great devotees. So there's actually 4 aspects of prayer that I'll speak in order, which appear in the prayers in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The first is praise, or glorification of the Lord. And this is actually the major part of the prayer. It's funny, actually, we're studying the prayers of Vajrasura today, and it's actually technically only 4 verses. And you'll see, he actually basically is just asking for what he wants. But if you know the whole story of Vajrasura, you can understand that his very, very life and his words that he speaks to Indra before he begins his prayers to the Lord are praise and glorification of the Lord. So that's just a disclaimer. And the praise is the major part, and it's also a form of greeting. And the focus of the devotee is actually less about themselves and more about Krishna and gratitude and appreciation of him. As we advance in Krishna consciousness, we actually become less self-centered, and we become more absorbed in meditating on Krishna and his glories. And out of love, the devotee wants to tell Krishna how glorious he is, isn't it? when you love someone, you naturally want to appreciate them and talk about them and tell everybody how wonderful they are. And there are many devotees like Kolavich Sridhar from the Chaitanya Charitamrita who they did not even want to do the last aspect of prayer, which is requesting the Lord for blessings, because they were simply satisfied with praising the Lord, because meditating on and expressing Krishna's glories fills the devotee with so much love, with so much satisfaction, that they actually don't need anything else. Like, when we're empty ourselves, has anybody ever had the experience, like, when you're having a bad day, and you just, like, go out into the world, and you're just kind of, like, looking for some relief, and then when you see other people, honestly, like, the subtle, like, interaction that you have with them is like, can you just help me? Can you just, like, make me feel better? But when we're, like, full and happy and satisfied and experiencing Krishna's joy, we're so full that we go out into the world and we're just like, what can I give to you? And even if someone says something mean to us, we're just like, are you okay? Can I serve you? Because we just have so much overflow that we want to give. And same with Prahlad Maharaj. When Lord Nrsimhadev asked him to accept a benediction, he just refused. He was like, I'm not interested in a business relationship with you. He just wanted to serve the Lord for the Lord's pleasure and not for anything in return. The Lord kept insisting. He was like, no, you have to take a benediction, like, please. Like, Lord Nrsimhadev was like begging him, like, please take a benediction. So Prahlad finally accepted a blessing. But he didn't ask it for himself. He asked that his father be pardoned and granted liberation. And then the next part of prayer is expressing our own disqualification. Like, I am not qualified to receive your mercy. I am not qualified, actually, to pray for you. And then the devotee thanks the Lord for all he has given them out of gratitude. Gratitude is so important in Krishna consciousness. And if you don't know how to start praying, just start with gratitude. Just thank Krishna for everything he's given you. Kunti Devi, in her prayers, she thanks Krishna for all the help he provided her family. And often we express our thanks to Krishna for everything he has done for us, kind of like in a general sense. But Kunti, however, explains in very specific detail how Krishna protected her and her sons from many dangers. And so she teaches that gratitude is actually shown by like a very specific delineation of the Lord's blessings upon us rather than by like a general expression of gratitude. So get specific with Krishna. And remembrance of God's specific kindness upon us helps us connect to his love on a deeper level. So we should be specific in our prayers. And then the devotee at the end requests the Lord for the blessings that they seek. So you might have a question, what kind of blessings do devotees ask for? You know, is it like, give me this nice car, this nice house, or fill in the blank, you know? Pure devotees don't ask for material blessings. And we'll see in Vritsura's prayers that he emphatically declares that he does not want an unrivaled kingdom where yoga powers. He does not want liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Let's just pause for a second. That is so far out. Can any of us like genuinely say, like, yep, I don't want to get out of this suffering of birth, death, disease, and old age. That's not motivating me. He doesn't even care for that. He doesn't even want opulence greater than that of the heavenly abodes. He only wants one thing, to be united with Krishna through loving service. He only wants pure devotional service. But we will also see in Vritsura's prayers that he is confident and he knows that he's going back home, back to Godhead. We're going to read the prayers together. And he literally tells Indra, at first he's like telling Indra, like, I'm gonna kill you. And then he's like, actually, I know that you're gonna kill me because that's what's destined. So just do it. But he says, but when you do it, I'm gonna go back home, back to Godhead. So he knows, he has that confidence. And I was thinking about that as I was reading the prayers, and I was like, that is so cool. We can have that same, like he doesn't desire liberation from the cycle of birth and death, he's not asking for that, yet he knows that he's gonna get that. He knows he's gonna go back home, back to Godhead. Why? Because he knows that's what Krishna wants. And he knows that's how he can best serve Krishna. And Prabhupada, he actually said to us that, like, for us, where we're at, like the desire to go back home, back to Godhead will motivate us in our devotional service. So we should have that desire. And we can have the confidence ourselves that if we follow in the footsteps of Vritrasura, which when we read his prayers will explain that he's meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord, and his consciousness is totally absorbed in remembrance of the Lord. So if we can have that same remembrance of the Lord throughout our life and at the time of death, we can have that same confidence. We're also going back home, back to Godhead, which is amazing. And then we won't have a fear of death. So pure devotees of Krishna, they refuse to take material gifts from him because, why? Because they actually know that all blessings in this material world are temporary, and they're pregnant with suffering. And this world guarantees, like guaranteed. Sometimes we think as devotees, now I'm a devotee, life is going to be so nice. I know I personally sometimes am like that. I have this like very from very young age, I had like this very positive attitude about life. Like life is wonderful and life is beautiful and everything is amazing. That is like my consciousness. And like, it's so funny because like Krishna does give me suffering in my life, and it's like he's teaching me like Champakalata. As long as you're in this material body, stop thinking like life materially is so perfect. So that's gonna happen. We're gonna have misery, we're gonna have impediments. What is misery? Misery can be defined as getting what you don't want and not getting what you want. And Srimad Bhagavatam gives us countless examples of people not getting what they want to prove that this is the nature of the material world, and as long as we have a material body, we're going to experience this. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada gave us the best benediction to ask from Krishna, the opportunity to serve him selflessly. This is the only thing that will give us true happiness. Dhruva Maharaj. Does anybody know what he desired when he first started praying to Krishna? Yes.
He wanted the kingdom greater than his father, his grandfather, and his grandfather was called Brahma. So he wanted actually bigger universe to manage than his father, his grandfather.
Yeah, he wanted a bigger universe to manage than Lord Brahma, which I really would not recommend that because management is not easy. And that's what he wanted. But that's material desire, right? But then when the Lord appeared before Dhruva, he regretted cultivating that desire. And he told the Lord that by having his darshan, does anybody know what he told the Lord? Yes.
I've wished for...
broken pieces of glass.
Yeah. I've wished for broken pieces of glass, but I have received this diamond of darshan in the form of you, Krishna.
Yeah, so he realized that he had been asking for not good stuff, and that seeing Krishna and loving Krishna is the real nectar. So this is really what we want to aspire for. So then one could ask, well, what if I'm not a pure devotee? Anybody feel that way, that they're not a pure devotee? And what if I have material desires? So Rajbi Hariguru gave class the other day at Bhakti Center, and it was amazing. And he shared that once he desired to get like the best marks on his exam, and he went to his mentor and asked him what to do. And his mentor said, you should pray to Krishna to come first in the exam. And Rajbihari was like, that's not pure devotional service. That's nonsense. And his mentor then said, you ask for what you want, and then you end your prayer with one line. Krishna, I am a fool. I do not know what to pray for. I'm asking for this because I really want to come first in the exams, but you are more intelligent than me. Next time I come in front of you, please give me the intelligence to pray for things that are really good for me. But right now, I really want to come first in the exams. So we can approach Krishna and develop an intimate relationship with him by being honest with where we are at, but at the same time, we can come to Krishna praying to come to a higher level devotional service that will be pleasing to Krishna and also what is best for us. So then it's not spiritual bypassing. Like, oh, I really, really, really like have this, material desire, but like I'm just gonna like stuff it down and like ignore it's not there, and just like pretend to be a pure devotee. But that is like, and it's also good to at the end of the prayer say, if you so desire, because then we leave it up to Krishna. And also engage in Krishna's service. Like someone once asked Srila Prabhupada, like, should we pray for your health? And Prabhupada said, you can pray for my health, but you add at the end of the prayer, if you so desire. So it's ultimately up to Krishna. And what is our intention for praying? Like, actually a friend of mine went and asked Rana Swami if she should pray for health. And Rana Swami said, if you want health so that you can enjoy sense gratification, then that's Maya. But if you want health so that you can serve Krishna nicely, then you should pray for that. And then add if you so desire. So we should be dovetailing everything in Krishna's service and ultimately begging the Lord to help us let go of our material desires and come to that pure place of pure devotional service. So the essence of all the rules and regulations that we practice in Krishna consciousness is to always remember Krishna and to never forget him. And we can accept whatever works best for us to help us remember Krishna. We have to find our love and our connection in Krishna consciousness. It could be singing bhajans or dressing the deities or chanting the holy names or hearing Srimad Bhagavatam classes. Whatever works, somehow or other, we need to fix our minds on Krishna and become completely absorbed in him. And gratitude in daily life is another practical way to improve our prayers. If you're thirsty and someone offers you a cup of water, you'll probably say thank you, right? But isn't Krishna at every moment supplying us unlimited water and air and heat and sunshine and food and relationships and shelter and everything we need? So this awareness of the daily gifts that Krishna is giving us, especially what we have received like in the last 24 hours, is a really good way to keep our gratitude practices like fresh and exciting. So you don't want anything to become mechanic in Krishna consciousness. You don't want to just be like saying the same things every day. Like really like think of new things to say. Read new prayers also. Like one thing I do actually, we have that songbook, the songs of the Vaishnava Acharyas. And during Purushottam month, every single day before I would chant my japa, I would read a different prayer from that book. And then I would meditate on it and try to enter into the mood of it while I chanted my japa. It really helped a lot when we read prayers, different prayers. It's like, wow, that's inspiring. Wow, I want to enter into that consciousness. So sometimes in extreme suffering or when facing death, a devotee goes really deep and is able to see Krishna's love in their suffering. Right? They're kind of like forced, like in that situation, to really surrender. But can we see Krishna's love in the good things? You know, it's time to celebrate the daily gifts with gratitude, because one day we're going to have to thank him for a life that went by so quickly and we received so much. But did we realize as we were going through it what we were receiving? Queen Kunti, she prayed to Krishna. I think probably a lot of you are familiar with her prayers, that Krishna send her repeated sufferings so she could have darshan of the Lord and receive his protection. The reason she was praying like that is not because she was like, what's that word when people like want to hurt themselves?
Self-flagellation.
Yeah, like she wasn't like unhealthy mentally and just like wanting to suffer. Because some people really have that problem, like they actually want to suffer. But she wanted to experience Krishna's love and deepen her love and dependence on him. Ananda Vrindavan, the DC temple president, once said to Bhurijan Prabhu that she preferred serving in America over Vrindavan because it was harder to be Krishna conscious in America than Vrindavan, and so it made her like pray more. And Bhurijan Prabhu, his response was that we should pray to Krishna that we can be just as Krishna conscious when things are good as when things are bad. So, not like I need bad things to be Krishna conscious, but let me be Krishna conscious all the time. Yeah. So, let's dive into the prayers of Vritrasura. This is exciting. We're reading from Canto 6, Chapter 11. I'm going to give a little backstory first before I actually pull up the verses. Thank you so much. So, like, I'm not going to, like, say the whole story, but so people can kind of get a little bit of what's happening. Indra, the king of the heavenly planets, he had actually killed Vishwarupa. And then Tvastra, Vishwarupa's father, he performed a sacrifice to kill Indra. But this is a very good reason why the means for liberation in this age is not elaborate sacrifices, and the means for deliverance in this age is Sankirtan, the chanting congregationally of the holy names. Because, unfortunately, if mantras are chanted irregularly, they yield an opposite result from what you want. So this happened when Tvastra performed this yajna. He was performing the sacrifice to kill Indra, and he chanted a mantra to increase Indra's enemies, but because he chanted the mantra wrong, the sacrifice actually produced a demon named Vritrasura, of whom Indra was the enemy. And that actually would be killed by Indra. And when Vritrasura was generated from the sacrifice, his very fierce, scary, like monster-looking features made the whole world afraid. And his personal effulgence diminished even the power of the demigods. So as we move forward, this is an extremely important point when studying the prayers of Vritrasura, because we will see from Vritrasura's prayers that he was actually a pure devotee. You know, we hear that demigods are devotees and demons are demons, right? But Vritrasura had the material body of a demon, but he was a pure devotee, right? And also Prahlad Maharaj was born in a demoniac family, but was a pure devotee. So we have to take that lesson very seriously, that we should never judge a person and their devotion by the way their body looks, by what family they were born into, or by what their external situation might be. That what makes a devotee is their heart and their consciousness. And we should not judge someone by externals, but get to know someone's heart, get to know their love for Krishna, and appreciate them from that place. Whereas Indra was the king of the heavenly planets. He's a demigod. And he is also a devotee of Krishna. But he is a mixed devotee who has material desires and who many times in the Srimad Bhagavatam gets triggered when he doesn't get what he wants. He's attached to material enjoyment. So actually, Vritrasura is a better devotee than him. So finding no other means of protection from Vritrasura, the demigods began to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Being pleased with the demigods, the Supreme Personality of Godhead advised them to approach the Dichi, to beg him for the bones of his own body, which means that they're asking him to die for them. And he said that the Dichi would comply with the request of the demigods, and with the help of his bones, Vritrasura could be killed. And the Dichi, he did comply. He was actually happy. This is a very, very elevated consciousness. He was happy to donate his body for a higher purpose. And then the demigods prepared a thunderbolt from the Dichi's bones that had been promised by Lord Vishnu would kill Vritrasura. Then, armed with the thunderbolt weapon, they prepared themselves to fight. So this was happening at the end of Satya Yuga and the beginning of Treta Yuga, and a great fight took place between the demigods and the demons. Unable to tolerate the effulgence of the demigods, what happened? All of the asuras, the demons, they just fled the battle. They just left. They were not having team spirit. They just left Vritrasura by himself. They were like, peace out. And he was their commander-in-chief to fight for himself. And what was his response, Vritrasura? Did he flee? No. He did condemn them as cowards. And he did try to advise them to stay, but they didn't listen. But then he very bravely stood alone to face the demigods. And when the demigods saw Vritrasura's attitude, they became afraid because of his courage. And Vritrasura began trampling them down. So unable to tolerate this, Indra threw his club at Vritrasura. But Vritrasura, he caught the club and with his left hand, and he used it to beat Indra's elephant. And when the elephant was struck by the blow of Vritrasura, the elephant got pushed back like 14 yards, fell down, and Indra was on its back. At that moment, Vritrasura probably could have killed Indra, but because he was following like the moral principles of fighting, he did not. He allowed them to recover, basically. And Indra, he, like with his mystic potency, like cured the elephant, so that the elephant was better. Then Vritrasura first threatens to kill Indra, but then, as he speaking to Indra, he knows that he's destined to be killed, and so he actually requests Indra to kill him. So he knows that that's destined by Vishnu. So he says to Indra, come on, have confidence. This thunderbolt is going to kill me, just do it. And Vritrasura says, this will benefit both you and myself. Why? Because Indra will get what he wants, which is the heavenly kingdom, and to enjoy materially, and Vritrasura will get what he wants, which is going back home, back to Godhead. From a material perspective, it could seem that Indra is the winner and Vritrasura is the loser, but actually it's the opposite. Indra is the loser because he's going to continue suffering in the material cycle of birth, death, disease, and old age, which is not happiness. And he's attached to his material body and will, and he'll just continue to suffer. Whereas Vritrasura is not attached to this material body, which Prabhupada says is the rope of material attachment, and he will never have to return to the material world to suffer. So Vritrasura is victorious. So this is such a good lesson for us that as we go about our life, we're material conditioned, is it not? So we look at life and we judge things and react to life based on this is good, this is bad from a material perspective. What we need to do as devotees is we need to transform our consciousness to look at things from a spiritual perspective. And what is the real spiritual perspective? The real spiritual perspective is actually everything is good if it brings me closer to Krishna. Even if it's horrible materially, it's the best. It's amazing. Because there's no material impediments in devotional service. I wanted to make a t-shirt one time that said no material impediments. Because it's true. No matter what happens, it's amazing if we come closer to Krishna. But no matter what happens, even if it's the best, it's really bad if we forget Krishna. And Krishna is so personal with us that he knows exactly what we need to remember him. So he's going to act in our life really personally for us, giving us what we need. Prabhupada says in the purport to verse 21, unfortunately, even though the body is destined for destruction, fools and rascals invest all their faith in the body and are never eager to return home back to Godhead. People think that the goal of life is to simply make the body beautiful, to make the body last longer, to make the body feel good. They invest all their energy in it. One time Ranaswami was giving a lecture and he said, if you're unhealthy and you're just meditating, I just want a new young body to be healthy, well, you'll have to get that. Jai Shri Shri Radha Muladhari Ki, Shri Shri Gaura Chandra Ki, Ki. So what is real fortune? Vritrasura says in verse 18 that his fortune will be to receive the dust of the feet of great devotees like Narada. And Prabhupada says in the purport, if one receives the dust of the lotus feet of a great devotee, he certainly returns home back to Godhead. Going back to Godhead is achieved by the grace of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava always desires the dust of the lotus feet of the previous acharyas and Vaishnavas. And Prabhupada says in the purport to verse 20, Vritrasura was eager to die with the stroke of the thunderbolt sent by Lord Vishnu, so that he could immediately return home back to Godhead. A devotee is not only afraid of death, but is actually excited and eager about it. The devotee is actually wanting it to happen when the time comes. But very important point, this is not the same thing as like being suicidal or depressed or just wanting to die. It doesn't mean that the devotee ends their life. And the story of Sanatana Goswami and Chaitanya Charitamrita perfectly exemplifies this. Sanatana Goswami, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, had boils on his body, and he was thinking, my body is so useless, I don't want to get anywhere near Lord Chaitanya. what I will do is I will, when the Rathayatra card comes, I will put my body in front of the Rathayatra card and I will commit suicide while having darshan of Lord Jagannath. This was his idea. Lord Chaitanya knows everything, and he came up to Sanatana Goswami and he said, "What nonsense idea are you thinking? Who are you to think that your body is yours? Your body is my property. If I would have, if committing suicide would make me go back home, back to Godhead, I would have committed suicide millions of times by now. But that is not how you go back home, back to Godhead. Actually, it's explained in scriptures that if you do that, you get a body of a ghost. It's really not recommended. It creates future suffering. But my body, I have a lot of service I want to do through your body. Therefore, you keep your life, you engage in my service." And then he embraced Sanatana Goswami and cured him of his boils. And Sanatana Goswami went on to perform wonderful service for the Lord. So the devotee wants to live their full life in service to the Lord and to use their life and their material body to advance in Krishna consciousness. But then when the time comes where it becomes obvious to the devotee that their time is up, they're excited. And it's a celebration, you know? I have many friends who are chaplains. And they see, when someone who doesn't have God consciousness is leaving the body, it's very fearful and it's very sad. But when a devotee is leaving the body, it's like ecstasy. Bhakti Tirtha Swami said, it doesn't get any better than this. So, Prabhupada in verse 21 purport, he says, "The most important duty at the time of death is to concentrate one's mind. If one can fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, Vishnu, Sankarsana, or any Vishnu Murti, his life will be successful." So Vitrasura told Indra he would focus his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Sankarsana, Vishnu. That is how we prepare for death. We can only focus our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna at the time of death if we focus our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna during our life. So that is Krishna consciousness. We have to focus our mind on Krishna during our life. So now we're going to go into the verses, starting with verse 22. Samkadikanta diyan swakanam yasam parodi vipumarasayam narhati adesha udvekati madakadirvasanam sampayasha. So this is, he's still speaking to Indra in these verses, and then it's going to transfer into his prayers to the Lord. Would anybody like to read the translation in purport?
Translation. Persons who fully surrender at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always think of his lotus feet are accepted and recognized by the Lord as his own personal assistants or servants. The Lord never bestows upon such servants the brilliant opulence of the upper, lower, and middle planetary systems of this material world. When one possesses material opulence in any of these three divisions of the universe, his possessions naturally increase his enmity, anxiety, mental agitation, pride, and belligerence. Thus, one goes through much endeavor to increase and maintain his possessions, and he suffers great unhappiness when he loses them. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 11, the Lord says, "Ye yatamam prapadyante tamstitaiva prajamyaham mama varadman vavartante sarvasha." As devotees surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. Both Indra and Vritrasura were certainly devotees of the Lord, although Indra took instructions from Vishnu to kill Vritrasura. The Lord was actually more favorable to Vritrasura because after being killed by Indra's thunderbolt, Vitrasura would go back to Godhead, whereas the victorious Indra would rot in this material world. Because both of them were devotees, the Lord awarded them the respective benedictions they wanted. Vitrasura never wanted material possessions, for he knew very well the nature of such possessions. To accumulate material possessions, one must labor very hard. And when he gets them, he creates many enemies, because this material world is always full of rivalry. If one becomes rich, his friends or relatives are envious. For Ekanta Bhaktas, unalloyed devotees, Krishna therefore never provides material possessions. A devotee sometimes needs some material possessions for preaching, but the possessions of a preacher are not like those of a karmi. A karmi's possessions are achieved as a result of karma, but those of a devotee are arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead just to facilitate his devotional activities. Because a devotee never uses material possessions for any purpose other than the service of the Lord, the possessions of a devotee are not to be compared to those of a karmi.
So Prabhupada said, he gave the example of a microphone. He said, is this material or spiritual? He said if it's used to, just like blast mundane music or something, then it's material. But if it's used to broadcast the glories of the Lord, then it's spiritual. So it's a very important point, because someone might read this and think, oh my gosh, like if I'm going to be a devotee of Krishna, like I'm just not going to have anything. But the Lord, He gives us what we need to serve Him. And so if we are using our material things in the service of the Lord, then those things are not material, those things are spiritual. And there's nothing wrong with having them. We have to ask ourselves in our life, and it's different for everyone. There's people who are millionaires and have huge houses and are amazing devotees of Krishna because they're using all of that in Krishna's service. We have to take guidance from our mentors, like, what's my path? How can I best serve Krishna? Whether it's by being a renunciate or being a millionaire, and one isn't better than the other. But the question we have to ask ourselves, am I using all of these things because I'm attached to them and I want to use them for my own material sense gratification, or am I accepting these things so that I can serve Krishna nicely? Because the Lord knows that if one is attached to material things for the sake of material things, that is going to increase his enmity, anxiety, mental agitation, pride, and belligerence. But that won't happen if your possessions are being used in the service of Krishna. So next verse, we can chant the Sanskrit together. Jaivargikaya sarvikattamasmat Patir vidate purushasya sakra Tatonmeyo Bhagavat prasado Yodurlavo kinchana gocharanya. Would someone else like to read the translation of the book? Yeah.
Our Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, forbids his devotees to endeavor uselessly for religion, economic development, and sense gratification. All Indra, one can thus infer how kind the Lord is. Such mercy is obtainable only by unalloyed devotees, not by persons who aspire for material gains. Purport. There are 4 objectives in human life, namely religiosity, dharma, economic development, artha, sense gratification, kama, and liberation, moksha, from the bondage of material existence. People generally aspire for religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification, but a devotee has no other desire than to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both in this life and in the next. The special mercy for the unalloyed devotee is that the Lord saves him from the hard labor to achieve the results of religion, economic development, and sense gratification. Of course, if one wants such benefits, the Lord certainly awards them. Indra, for example, although a devotee, was not much interested in release from material bondage. Instead, he desired sense gratification and a high standard of material happiness in the heavenly planets. Vrikasura, however, being an unalloyed devotee, aspired only to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Lord arranged for him to go back to Godhead after his bodily bondage was destroyed by Indra. Vrikasura requested Indra to release his thunderbolt against him as soon as possible so that both he and Indra would benefit according to their proportionate advancement in devotional service.
So we pretty much already talked about this, right? That the Lord's mercy is actually saving a devotee from pursuing these things. Because a beautiful prayer you can make to the Lord is, my Lord, you know what's best for me. May the right doors open and the wrong doors close according to your will, because Krishna knows what's best for us. So he guides the devotee like, hey, like that's not really what you want. This is really what you want. So that's what this is saying. That he's guiding Vrikasura in that way. Now, in the next verse, Vrikasura begins to pray to the Lord. We can chant the Sanskrit together. Aham hare tava pade kamula prasanudaso bhavitasmi muya manasmarita shubhater namaste Grinidava karma karotu kaya. Do you want to read?
O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servants, who find shelter only at your lotus feet. O Lord of my life, may I again become their servant, so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes. My words always glorify those attributes, and my body always engaged in the loving service of your Lordship. This verse gives the sum and substance of devotional life. One must first become a servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord, Dasa and Dasa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised, and he also showed by his own example that a living entity should always desire to be a servant of the servant of Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis, Gopi Bhakti, Padakamayo, Dasa, Dasa, and Dasa. This means that one must accept a spiritual master.
Oh boy. Okay,
Who
try.
comes in the disciplic succession and is a servant of the Lord. Under his direction, one must then engage one's three properties, namely his body, mind, and words. The body should be engaged in physical activity under the order of the master. The mind should think of Krishna incessantly, and one's words should be engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord. If one is not engaged in the loving service of the Lord, one's life is successful.
So this verse is so beautiful, isn't it? He's just wanting shelter at the Lord's feet. And how does one receive shelter at the Lord's feet? By being the servant of the servant of the servant. So he's saying, they become their servant. Who's their servant? The Lord's servant, the spiritual master, the devotees. So that my mind might always think of you. So it's by the mercy of the Lord's pure devotees that we can be Krishna conscious. It's by their mercy that we can remember the Lord. It's by their mercy that we can attain shelter at the Lord's feet. So that is the whole principle of spiritual life. We must accept a spiritual master. We must have the consciousness that I am just the servant of the servant of the servant. We must receive the mercy and the shelter of the devotees. And then we have to engage all of us, our body, our mind, our words. We have to engage every aspect of ourselves in full absorption in the Lord. We can chant together. Anaka Prishna Vajapana Vestya Nasarvabhoma Narasadipatyam Nayoga Siddhya Apurabhavamba Samanjasathagara Kunshi. Someone else like to read?
O my Lord, source of all opportunities, I do not desire to enjoy Dhruva-loka, the heavenly planets or the planet where Lord Brahma resides, nor do I want to be the supreme ruler of all the earthly planets or the lower planetary systems. I do not desire to be master of the powers of mystic yoga, nor do I want liberation if I have to give up your lotus feet. A pure devotee never desires to gain material opportunities by rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord. A pure devotee desires only to engage in loving service to the Lord in the constant association of the Lord and his eternal associates, as stated in the previous verse. Okay, you can help me with this.
Das Anudasa Bhavitasi.
As confirmed by Narottam Das Thakur.
And there
Tandira Charana Sevi Bhakta Sane Vasha Janame Janame Haya E Abhihinasha. To serve the Lord and the servants of his servants and the association of devotees is the only objective of a pure unalloyed devotee.
So the reward is service. One time a reporter asked Srila Prabhupada, what do you hope to gain by chanting Hare Krishna? And he said, I hope to chant Hare Krishna. That chanting Hare Krishna is the reward. What is, and similarly also Krishna says to the gopis, and in Srimad Bhagavatam, he says, I cannot repay you for your love. I can only give you myself. Please be satisfied. So when we fully love the Lord, he gives himself to us. Can you imagine? That, how could you want anything else? The love that you will receive by receiving the Lord's love is more than satisfying. And there's no desire for anything else. So a pure devotee just wants to serve the Lord and again, the servants of his servants, and to always be in the association of devotees. Always having the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. They never want to gain anything for themselves from the process. Like we said earlier, Prahlad Maharaj said, I'm not in business with you. And we can ask ourselves as we practice Krishna consciousness, what is motivating me in my service? And am I wanting to get something out of my service, even if it's subtle, like prestige, fame, adoration, appreciation, attention. A pure devotee doesn't want those things. And when we can see we're being motivated by those things, we can pray to the Lord, please take this away. Please let me just be motivated for your happiness. And your love is my reward. And honestly, I can share with all of you all that feeling that the Lord is pleased and feeling the Lord's happiness is way better than any kind of external appreciation that others can give us. That's why actually doing secret service is so nice and important. When you do a service secretly that no one knows about, only Krishna, then that helps you develop that motivation, that pure motivation of, I'm not doing this to be seen as a good devotee, but I'm doing this to love Krishna. And you feel when you do that, Krishna reciprocates. Ajata paksha iva martaram kala stanyamata vatsatara shurarta Priyam Priyava Visita Vishana Manoram Vindakshati Drakshati Tam. This is like the most beautiful verse. Would anybody like to read?
Can't see.
Okay, if not, I'll just read. O lotus-eyed Lord, as baby birds that have not yet developed their wings, always look for their mother to return and feed them. As small calves tied with ropes await anxiously the time of milking, when they will be allowed to drink the milk of their mothers. Or as a morose wife whose husband is away from home, always longs for him to return and satisfy her in all respects. I always yearn for the opportunity to render direct service unto you. A pure devotee always yearns to associate personally with the Lord and render service unto him. The examples given in this regard are most appropriate. A small baby bird is practically never satisfied except when the mother bird comes to feed it. A small calf is not satisfied unless allowed to suck the milk from the mother's udder. And a chaste devoted wife whose husband is away from home is never satisfied until she has the association of her beloved husband. We can pray to be like the bird and the calf and the wife. Like this is the kind of longing that a devotee has for Krishna. And Jayapataka Maharaji always says, if you can't cry for Krishna, you should cry to cry for Krishna. And if you can't cry to cry for Krishna, you should cry to cry to cry to cry for Krishna. And he goes on like that for a very long time. So this is like, we should read this, and this is what Vrishvasura is feeling. This is how much he's yearning. And we should pray, may I be like that baby bird who, I'm not going to be satisfied by anything except the mother returning, right? I'm not going to be satisfied by anything except for the opportunity to serve you. Not the opportunity to be served by you, right? But the opportunity to serve you. Not, Radha Muralidhar, what can you give me? But Radha Muralidhar, what can I give you? And in the giving, we receive everything. And we become happy. Okay, last verse. Mamatamashtoka janesi sakyam samsara chakre ramata sakarmabhi manhayat madhvajatara girish ashakta chitasya nanakta bhuryat. O my Lord, my Master, I am wandering throughout this material world as a result of my fruitive activities. Therefore, listen to this. I simply seek friendship and the association of your pious and enlightened devotees. My attachment to my body, wife, children, and home is continuing by the spell of your external energy, but I wish to be attached to them no longer. Let my mind, my consciousness, and everything I have be attached only to you. So Ramananda Rai, he says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that he knows no suffering except not being in the association of devotees. And when he's in the association of devotees, there is no suffering. So the greatest joy for a devotee of Krishna is to have friendship with other devotees. Why? Oh, that's so cute. You guys looked at each other. Friends. Yeah. So why is that? Because good devotee association, we leave that association feeling more Krishna conscious, feeling inspired, feeling enlivened, feeling closer to Krishna. Devotee association, doesn't mean just like, Radha Swami always says this, like getting together with devotees and just like doing nonsense. And then you leave that association being like, I don't feel any closer to Krishna. Like real devotee association is what we're doing right now. Real devotee association is chanting and hearing together about Krishna and sharing about Krishna and singing for Krishna and sharing, giving and receiving prasadam, giving and receiving gifts, revealing our mind in confidence and hearing others reveal their mind to us. This is real devotee association. So a devotee, they yearn for that. They want friendship. They want intimacy with other devotees. Because when you associate with other people who love Krishna, their love affects you. It's contagious. When you begin to develop your love for Krishna. So we should seek this, and when we find it, we should cherish it, be grateful for it, and hold on to it and never let it go. And when it says, I wish to no longer be attached to my family, that's materialistic attachment. That's like, I don't want to see my family as an extension of my false ego. That I am the proprietor of them, and they are extensions of me, and I am the Lord of them. That's material attachment. But actually, when you're Krishna conscious, you actually are a better parent. You're a better wife, you're a better husband, you love your family more because you see them as devotees of Krishna. You see that Krishna is in their heart. You see that they're loved by Krishna. And you know that Krishna will accept your service by the way you serve them. And then you can love them more. But in relationship to Krishna. So that's a very important point. I have to sincerely apologize to all of you because I really wanted to stop talking 10 minutes before the time, or 15, so we could have discussion, but I overestimated and talked too long. Anshul hasn't blown yet, so if anyone would like to ask a question, we can see. And then if Anshul ends up being blown, then I'm here afterwards if anybody would like to ask me a question. I'm available. Anybody have anything? Or realizations, thoughts from the class? Anwar.
Thank you for holding the space, Prabhu. This was extremely nourishing. I can really feel the devotee association that you were talking about very experientially. My question would be in regards to this prayer. It's something that personally I've had struggle with, especially in getting away from the mindset of asking for material things.
Yeah.
So what would be your advice in adding that into our routine of just kind of from the heart offering Krishna something? Like maybe even just practically like adding it into a schedule or something like this.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, my husband always tells me, well, if you don't put it in your schedule, you're not going to do it. Yeah, like just you can do a 100-day project of like every day for 100 days, I'm gonna sit in front of Radha and pray for 10 minutes. Set a timer and just sit down. And if you don't know how to start, one good way is just stream of consciousness. Just like, okay, I don't know what to say, Krishna, but just start speaking anyways. Just kind of force yourself to get into it. And one way to get out of our mind and it being all about us is to pray for others and to glorify Krishna. Those are two practical ways to move from Krishna, I want A, B, C, D, E, to Krishna, please help this devotee. Please give this devotee pure devotional service. And telling, even if it's just like, wow, Krishna, like, your ankle bells are so beautiful. And your sash is so beautiful. And I love the way the pujari did your turban. And your eyes are so beautiful. And you look so beautiful. Like, even if it's something simple like that. Does that help?
It's wonderful.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Thank you so much, Champakalata, for your wonderful class. Just I have a question of, like we pray Mahamantra. You said Mahamantra is also a type of prayer.
Yes.
And use of Mahamantra? Would you like to share some more in these?
Yes.
Mahamantra, I know you know by heart.
Yes. So the basic one that Prabhupada kind of told people to start with is, O Radha, O Krishna, please engage me in your service. And he also said, please accept me. Please accept me, that we can simply say, please accept me. Others that I've heard is, oh Krishna, you are my friend. You are my friend. You are my friend. I want to have a close relationship with you. And then there's also, if you haven't read The Living Name by Sachinanda Swami, I highly recommend. There's also many translations in that book. There's actually 16 translations for each of the 16 words in the Mahamantra. And you can actually pray each round chanting one of those prayers. And it gradually progresses from very basic of, oh Radha, please capture my heart and deliver me from, oh Radha, please capture my mind and deliver me from material existence. Which is where we start from, to at the end, oh Radha, accepting me as your own, take pleasure in me. And it progresses through those and includes prayers such as, basically like asking to be engaged in assisting the Lord's pastimes. So it's very, very, very deep. But yeah, there's many different prayers of pull my heart to you, etc., etc. So I highly recommend that book. Hare Krishna. Now we're going to do Arti. So everyone can move these red mats and come forward so we can all sing and dance together. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Champakalata Sakai.
Prabhupada ki.
Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnu Paramahamsa Parvajagacharya Stotra Shaka. His Divine Grace Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Gauri Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sekha Ho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Ved Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopanath Shama Kunara Kungiri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Ki Jai. Shri Madhapur Dham Ki Jai. Gomaya Ki Jai. Gunamaya Ki Jai. Tusti Devi Ki Jai. Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Samavita Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitya Gaur Premanandi. All voices of the Lord. All voices of praise. All voices of the Lord. All voices of those who Shri Guru and Shri Varanga. All voices of the Lord.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Radha Radha Dayine.
Dita
Bhagavan ki.
Thank you all so much again for being here. This is our weekly program. It happens every single Sunday. Please come as many Sundays as you possibly can. Next Sunday we'll have a Street for Life speaking to us, and he's really incredible, so we're really excited to have him. And also this coming Friday is Radhastami, the Divine Appearance Day of Srimati Radharani. So we'll be having a festival here at Bhakti Center. I believe it starts at 6:30. It's on our website, so you can double check exactly what time it starts. But I think it's 6:30. And we'll be having kirtan and a lecture and abhishek, and it's going to be very, very beautiful. So please come for that. And if you aren't already signed up for our temple newsletter, just go to bhakticenter.org, scroll down to the bottom and click on join our temple newsletter. And you can sign up to get these kind of notifications of what's happening here in our community. We have lunch for you all in the back. Please stay, please have prasadam, leave a donation if you can, make a friend, and thank you so much. And I also, one last thing, we have a beautiful team of devotees who help produce this program every week. Akeshwar, Prabhu, raise your hand. Nick, and there's a few more devotees in the back, so also thank them when you go take prasadam. Thank you for serving. Oh, but I'm sorry, Vinay. Thank you so much for all the devotees who are part of our beautiful team. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.